Talion. Talion for 2. Talion at 2 is a great choice. Let's see if they draw many cards. Oh, no, that's a 1. Resolve. Alright. They conjure a card. And they concede. Guess they didn't conjure what they needed, huh?
So a few weeks ago, I took to making a poll asking people what other formats you might want to take a look at on the channel. And a few of you mentioned Alchemy. And I thought to myself, you know what? I haven't given Alchemy a fair shake in pretty much its entire existence on Arena. So, what the heck? Let's build a deck, let's take it out there into Alchemy, and see how well we can do. Trying to get into a format that we know literally nothing about, because honestly, I ignore Alchemy-specific cards, like, as a rule, most of the time when I'm, like, looking at new cards coming out and all that. So I decided, let's do this. Let's build a deck using only standard legal cards that are also legal in Alchemy. So there's no Alchemy-specific cards in this deck whatsoever. It's all standard cards. So I landed on Dimir Faeries. And this deck is actually doing really well. I've been playing for about a week now in Alchemy ranked ladder, and I've actually been climbing ranks with it. It's been doing pretty well, and now I have a little bit more of an understanding of what Alchemy is and what kind of decks are out there. And it's honestly, it's been a breath of fresh air. It's like I haven't seen like hardly any like red-based aggro deck. Well, I've seen a few, but it's nowhere near as prevalent as in standard with red-based aggro. Esper midrange is nowhere to be seen because, well, Rafine and the gang aren't around. But there are a lot of other new interesting decks that I haven't seen before. Like, there's a lot of the Lord of the Rings cards that are making some very interesting builds, and it's been really fun learning a new format and seeing if I can do well in this format that I know literally nothing about. So let's go take a look at the deck real quick, and I'll guide you through a few games, and we'll see what we come up with. Let's go take a look at it.
All right, well, here we are with the deck, and this is my attempt at learning Alchemy. So, what we have here is a deck that contains no Alchemy cards, but is a perfectly standard legal deck that can be played in Alchemy. Meaning, all of the cards are from sets that Alchemy can play. So it doesn't have anything from like Midnight Hunt or Kamigawa, Nuka Penna, any of that. But we're also not playing any of the Alchemy-specific cards. So this deck can be fully played in either Standard or in Alchemy. And this deck is a Dimir Faeries build that kind of plays like a tempo build. All the creatures in your deck have flying, because they're all fairies. And because of that, it allows you to play a little bit defensively while building your army up. So, in the deck, you have 4 copies of Sleep Cursed Faerie, which is a 3/3 flying ward 2 for a single blue mana. And it says, Sleep Cursed Faerie enters the battlefield tapped with 3 stun counters on it. So, you can play this on turn 1, which is honestly a really good play for you, because it'll become active around turn 4. Or earlier, if you choose to try and untap it and remove stun counters with its activated ability. So, you have that. You also have Faerie Mastermind, 4 copies of this. 2/1 flash flying. Whenever an opponent draws their second card each turn, you draw a card. And has the activated ability of 3 colorless and 1 blue. Each player draws a card. And then we have Talion's Messenger, say 4 of these. And 1/3 flying. Whenever you attack with 1 or more fairies, draw a card, then discard a card. When you discard a card this way, put a +1/+1 counter on target fairy you control. We're also running Obira, Dreaming Duelist, flash flying. Whenever another fairy you control enters the battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life. And then lastly, we have Talion, the Kindly Lord. It's a 3/4 for 4 mana, flying. As Talion, the Kindly Lord, enters the battlefield, choose a number between 1 and 10. Whenever an opponent casts a spell with mana value, power, or toughness equal to the chosen number, that player loses 2 life and you draw a card. So, the theme that you're seeing here, aside from being all flying fairies, is that we're also running a bunch of flash creatures. So we have 4 Faerie Mastermind and 4 Obira, or 3 Obira, and those all have flash. And also, the Sleep Cursed Faerie has an activated ability to remove a stun counter or to untap it by paying a couple mana. So in the early turns of the game, you're going to want to be playing Sleep Cursed Faerie or holding up mana to play Faerie Fencing or Spell Stutter or Bitter Triumph. And if your opponent doesn't play into any of those spells, you can then, at end of turn, cast Obira or cast Faerie Mastermind because they have flash, allowing you to control the flow of the game, meaning that you can start developing on your opponent's turn, so you don't have to tap out on your turn in order to play your spells. You can just wait for the best opportune time to play your own spells. Now, we also have this really cool new card from Karlov Manor called Proph's Eidetic Memory. For 1 and a blue, you get a legendary enchantment that reads, when Proph's Eidetic Memory enters the battlefield, draw a card. You have no maximum hand size. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you've drawn more than 1 card this turn, put X +1/+1 counters on target creature you control, where X is the number of cards you've drawn this turn, -1. So, basically what this turns into is whenever you draw like your second card for turn and go to combat, you get to put a +1/+1 counter on one of your fairies. So, how are we drawing cards in this deck? Well, we have Faerie Mastermind, draws us cards when our opponent draws their second card per turn. We also have Invasion of Amonkhet, which draws us a card when the invasion comes into play. Talion's Messenger draws you a card whenever you go to attack with fairies. And Talion the Kindly Lord draws you a card when your opponent plays into the chosen number that you've chosen when you cast him, which is usually going to be 1 or 2, because those tend to be the most commonly used mana costs for the most efficient removal spells. So there's a lot of ways to draw cards in this deck passively using your fairies, and also Invasion of Amonkhet. So Proph's Eidetic Memory has an opportunity to trigger often. Also, don't forget that Proph's Eidetic Memory draws a card when it comes into play, effectively replacing itself. Now, aside from that, we have the removal of Faerie Fencing and Bitter Triumph, and we have 4 counter spells in Spell Stutter. So we have enough defenses to keep our opponent off balance while we are developing our board. And one of my favorite play patterns in this deck is casting one of these fairies at the end of the opponent's turn, and then playing an Invasion of Amonkhet on my turn, forcing the opponent to, both players to mill cards, and then the opponent discards a card, and then we draw a card, which is going to trigger Proph's Eidetic Memory, putting a +1 counter on one of the creatures that we played at the end of the opponent's turn. And in many cases, you're going to end up knocking out the Invasion of Amonkhet on your turn in just a single strike. And then you get to use the Lazotep Convert that comes into play off the back side of this to copy one of your fairies that are in the graveyard that got milled when this came into play. Or, in some cases, copying something that might happen to be better from the opponent's graveyard. But in most cases, you're going to be copying like an extra Talion's Messenger or an extra Faerie Mastermind or an extra Obira, just because, well, 1, your opponent is probably going to be killing your creatures if they're trying to interact with you in any way. And 2, because more flying fairies just furthers your game plan. A lot of the times if you try to copy an opponent's card, while it may be a great card, it doesn't necessarily further your game plan. So, That's the Invasion of Amonkhet. And yeah, that's pretty much the deck. It's very straightforward. It's just the actual play pattern of the deck is a little off kilter. So like, you're gonna be doing the majority of your game actions on your opponent's turn. Now, looking at the lands, we have 5 islands, 4 swamps, 4 dark slick shores, 3 restless reef, 4 Cavern of Souls, and 4 Mirrex. Now, the reason for the Mirrex and the Restless Reef are to combat control decks. Because a control deck will have no problem removing your creatures over and over and over, but they'll have a harder time with Restless Reef and with Mirrex. And Restless Reef has a power of 4, which just so happens to be the defense counters on Invasion of Amonkhet. So you can use a Restless Reef to one-shot knock out the Invasion of Amonkhet. So keep that in mind also. So there it is, that's the deck. Let's go play some games and see what Alchemy has in store for us. Alright, what do we got here? So we got 2 Mirrex, Dark Slick Shores, Sleep Cursed Faerie, Invasion of Amonkhet, and 2 Talien's Messengers. I think I'll keep it. It looks decent. Alright, we're going to play a Mirrex on turn 1, and use that blue mana to play a Sleep Cursed Faerie. Alright, our opponent plays a Copperline Gorge, and they play Long List of the Ents. Alright, let's see. It has so many chapters. Note a creature type that hasn't been noted for Long List of the Ents. When you cast your next creature spell of that type this turn, that creature enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. That's a lot. Alright, let's go and play a Dark Slick Shores, and we'll end the turn. It's a really cool design of a card. I will definitely give you that. Like, you're not going to find a whole lot of cards that are like that. Well, what's it going to be? Cat. Alright, you're going to play a cat this turn? I guess not. Alright, end of turn. We'll activate the ability. Alright, let's go ahead and play this island. And then I think we're just going to play a Talien's Messenger. Spirit. Alright. Okay, they played something. They play a Kami of Whispered Hopes. Alright. Alright, so I'm gonna play. Actually, no, we're not. We're gonna wait to play that. We're gonna play Invasion of Amonkhet first. Alright. Do they got anything in the graveyard? But they did put a creature down there. Gimli, Mournful Avenger. Has indestructible as long as you have 2 or more creatures died under your control this turn. Whenever another creature you control dies, but a +1/+1 counter on Gimli. When this ability resolves for a 3rd time this turn, Gimli fights up to 1 creature. Interesting. Alright. Do I have any creatures? I do not have any creatures in the graveyard. So, I'm going to play this Mirrex. And then, I'm going to use Fairy Fencing. Pay 0. Confirm. We're going to eliminate that Kami. Then, we're going to attack. This is going to attack here, but this is going to attack there. Okay. We draw and discard. The discard is going to be this Talien's Messenger. Target this fairy. Crunch that. Play the Lazotep Convert. And honestly, now that we have another Talien's Messenger in the graveyard, it's going to come in as one of those. I was thinking about copying the Kami of Whispered Hopes, but having an additional Talien's Messenger just furthers my game plan a little bit more. Ooh, a Yaris. Interesting choice. Okay. Oh! Okay. I guess they didn't have anything. I'll take it, though. A win's a win, right? Okay, so this looks interesting. So we got 2 islands in a Mirrex, a Sleep Cursed Faerie, 2 spell stutters, and a bitter triumph. So I think we'll keep it. Our opponent goes first, though, which kind of messes us up a little bit. I would really like to go first with a Sleep Curse Faerie. Alright, they play a Swamp into a Battlefly Swarm. Interesting. Alright, well, let's go here and here. Battlefly Swarm. Interesting choice. It does make me think twice about my Sleep Curse Faerie, though. But I got removal. I could remove it if I need to. Alright, because they are maybe disconnected? They shouldn't be roping this early. They might be having connection issues. I do like to give the benefit of the doubt whenever possible. That's not good. Alright, let's go ahead and play this Swamp. Luckily for him, I'm not exactly an aggressive deck. Okay, he's back. Good. See if he tries to do anything. He plays another Battlefly Swarm. Okay. Well, resolve. Don't really want to counterspell a Battlefly Swarm. Yep, pass. Pass. Alright, well, end of turn, we'll activate this ability. Hey, now we're talking. Alright, let's go and play that. Next. End turn. I love Faerie Mastermind, it's such a fun card. Diminished Returner. Okay, so it's a 4/3, and it enters the battlefield tapped. Diminished Returner perpetually gets -1/-1, then return it to the battlefield. Activate only if return is in your graveyard and is a toughness of 2 or greater. Okay, so you get to return to the battlefield 1 time. Pass. Are you gonna swing? I was hoping you would. And it requires 1 black to activate, so you can't do that. I will block. Alright. Then I'm gonna play the Mirax. I'm gonna swing. I will end the turn. See what he tries to do. This is just based off of what he has on the table. I can deal with the Diminished Returner and then just take the 1 damage from the Battlefly Swarm. But if he tries to tap out before attacking with the Battlefly Swarm, he'll be in the same situation as last turn. Oh, okay. Resolve. They can pay the 2. Okay, now we'll counter it. There we go. Pass. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to use Faerie Fencing. Actually, yeah, we will. I don't want to take 4 damage. So, select value for X. X is 0. Confirm. Hit that. Yeah, we'll take the 1. Okay, let's go and play this Swamp. And then we'll attack for 3. Boom. End turn. Such an odd deck. That's kind of the thing with jumping into a completely different format is you don't know what's you don't know what you're coming up against. It could be literally anything. Because like I don't study alchemy cards. This deck that I'm playing in this format is like 100% standard cards, no alchemy cards at all. But it is fun to like learn what's in the format. Ooh, Obliterator, that's got to go. I'll play Fairy Mastermind. Obliterators are bad. You do not want to face in those. Alright, they go to 9. Gixine Recycler. Dicer is put into your graveyard from your hand or library. Conjure a card named Gixine Recycler into your graveyard. And as Unearth. Okay. That's pretty cool. Alright. Diminished Returner comes back. Alright, pass. Okay, so this does not have Death Touch of any kind, so we're gonna activate and untap. And we will block. Oh. Pass, go to blocks. Now we block, there we go. Alright. Boom. Alright, and end of turn, I'm gonna activate this ability so I can draw 2 cards. You get to draw 1. Ooh, Invasion. And a spell stutter. Hell yeah. Alright, let's go ahead and cast Invasion of Amonkhet. What's in my graveyard? Nothing really. That's about to be more though. Alright. Show me what you got there. You got Battlefly Swarm. Got an Obliterator though. I kind of want to copy that Obliterator. Alright, let's play Restless Reef. I'll discard a card to get rid of that. Alright. Go crunch that. Alright, Lazadep comes back as an Obliterator. Alright, that works. I'm totally okay with that. Acre Drinker. And activating the other Acre Drinker. He's going to come in for 6 now. Because it would not make sense to hold those back to block. Because they don't fly. Ah, here we go. Talion. Talion for 2. Talion at 2 is a great choice. Alright. Let's see if they draw many cards. Oh, no. That's a 1. Resolve. Alright. They conjure a card. And they concede. Guess they didn't conjure what they needed, huh? Okay, what do we got here? So we got a Mirex and a Swamp, a Sleep Cursed Faerie, a Faerie Mastermind, 2 Spell Stutters, and a Bitter Triumph. This is not a capable hand. We need blue mana. Okay, that's a little bit better. I like that. So, Cavern of Souls, Dark Slick Shores, Island, Sleep Cursed Faerie, Crofts, and 2 Fairy Fencing. So we'll keep this and send back 1 of the Fairy Fencings. Alright, so thankfully we get to go first, so we're going to play the Dark Slick Shores into Sleep Cursed Faerie. They play a Crystal Grotto. Enters a battlefield, scry 1. Alright, I will play Cavern of Souls, naming Faerie. And then I will play a Proph's Eidetic Memory. I like that card. Okay, so they're off to a slow start. So we're going to play that. And then we're just going to pass. And if they don't do anything else, I'll have enough mana to remove that last stun counter. Perforator Crocodile. Okay, they cycle it. Here's the battlefield. For each creature your opponents control, conjure a card named Stab Wound onto the battlefield. Attach that creature. That's a cool card. I like that. Yeah. Yeah, resolve your cycle. That's funny. Alright, end of turn. Activate the ability. Alright, my turn. That is so funny. Alright, well I guess we play another Cavern of Souls. Naming Faerie. Then we will attack for 4. And then I'm going to play Talion. And we're going to call 2. Because 2 tends to be the most prevalent number. Especially among removal spells. And if he wants to remove it, he might want to think about removing it on his own turn so that I don't get the props bonus. So what's this do? Vampire Soldier. Whenever Legion Reconsecrator attacks, exile up to 1 target creature card from a graveyard. If you do, conjure a duplicate of it into your graveyard. The duplicate perpetually becomes a black skeleton with base power and toughness 3/1 in addition to its other colors and types. When Reconsecrator dies, return another target creature card with power or toughness 1 from your graveyard to the battlefield. How peculiar. That's a cool card. I like that. So we'll probably want to deal with that right now, actually. Make it so we can't use that ability. Alright, it goes to 7. Now, good thing about Faerie Mastermind is if he triggers Talion again, I can flash in Faerie Mastermind, just like that, to get an additional card draw. There we go. Alright, let's go ahead and oh, I guess that's game. Good game. It was. I had lethal on the board. Okay, so this looks pretty decent. We have a Restless Reef and an island. Unfortunately, our opponent goes first, but we have an Obira, Invasion, Talion's Messenger, Talion himself, and a Fairy Fencing. So I think we'll keep it. We'll play a Restless Reef on 1. Our opponent says hello. We will say hello as well. We want to be cordial. Okay, so we're up against a Golgari deck. Masu Dread Knight. Okay. Alright, let's go and play this right here. I am going to play the Sleep Curse Fairy right now. And that's going to give us access to the Fairy Fencing. Ah, the Palantir. You know, I'm okay with that. I'm totally okay with that. Alright, they scry, and our opponent draws a card. They're going to be drawing a lot of cards. Gotcha. Ooh, okay. Let's see here. I'm going to cast Prof's Eidetic Memory, because we need to draw into a land. There it is. Perfect. That Palantir is really strong. It's a good thing that's not a real card. Haywire Might. Interesting. You're gonna blow up my profs? Yeah, that's what you're doing. Gnawing Vermin. Interesting. Alright, so I mill 2 cards. That's cool. I'll lose life this time. There we go. Okay, let's go ahead and props again. in hopes of drawing another land. Perfect. Just gonna play that right there. And I will say next. Another counter right there. That's gonna be a big fairy once it wakes up. It's got one stun counter remaining. And surely by now you've drawn removal to handle it. I've drawn a lot of cards already. Airborne Scavengers. Enters the battlefield or attacks. Exile target card from a graveyard. Put a +1/+1 counter on Scavengers. Scavengers has flying as long as a card exiled with it has flying. The same is true for First Strike, Double Strike, Death Touch, Haste, Hexproof, Indestructible, Lifelink, Menace, Reach, Trample, and Vigilance. Okay, you get a lot of stuff there. Okay, so he wants to exile my Faerie. Plays the Master Dread Knight. So I'm going to take this opportunity to eliminate the Scavenger. Yep, take 1 damage. Palantir happens. You are going to be able to draw a card this time. Draw a card. Alright, let's see here. So, we can play Talion. And Talion is good. We have Talion's Messenger, a bit of Triumph. I kind of want to keep mana open for Bitter Triumph and Obira. So I think we're not going to do anything this turn. Pass. And I play another 9 Vermin. Target player mills 2 cards. Is he going to choose me or himself? Probably me. Yeah, resolve that effect. Okay. Oh, there's my 3rd Prophets over there. I do like that card a lot. It is really fun. Play another Scavengers. Alright. Is your whole strategy to just eat cards out of people's graveyards? I mean, it's a strange one. Alright, let's go and play Obira. Go to blocks. We'll take the 3. Resolve. Okay, lose some life. Alright, end of turn. We'll discard a card. Get rid of that. Discarding a Messenger. Alright, my turn. Let's go ahead and play Invasion of Amonkhet. Okay, draw a card. And we'll play the Mirex. And we are going, well, 1, put a +1 counter there. Then we're going to attack here. Alright. Invasion goes. Get a last step convert. I'm going to go to my side. I want a bigger Obira. Thank you. Let's see. I mean, we're not going to be doing anything on their turn, so I'm going to activate the ability and untap. All right. I think he just wanted to be able to use the Dread Knight again. Yeah, that's what I thought. "64 cards. Wow. Why do you have so many cards in your deck? That's insane." Alright, let's see here. Let's go play another invasion. Alright, draw a card. Play a Cavern. Call Faeries. Next. +1 counter there. All attack right there. Bink. Knock it out. Flip. What do you have? Nantuko Slicer. That's a kicker card. I could take your Yearborg Scavengers. I think... Actually, no, because that's not in his graveyard. It's removed from the game right now. So, give me a Tailing's Messenger. And... another Tailing's Messenger. There we go. No reason to hold up the man at this point. Really? Okay, I'll take it. I will definitely take the win. I don't know what you were planning with that, with all those extra cards and the Palantir, but I'll take it. Alright, we played some games, and I've got some thoughts. And my thoughts are, I love this deck. I've been playing this deck for probably about a week now. I've been using it to climb the Alchemy ladder, and it's been doing really well for me. Well, one, it really plays into my personal playstyle very well. I'm a big fan of Dimir, and these are like my comfort colors, so I'm pretty good at them. But also, the whole taking all of your game actions on the opponent's turn also really plays into my strengths as well. So like I really enjoy this deck and how this deck operates. Currently, I wouldn't change a thing about it. Maybe change like the numbers on Sleep Curse Faerie a little bit. Although probably not even still, because I like Sleep Curse Faerie being at 4 because I really want to play this turn 1, and having a full grip of 4 of these in the deck helps you make sure that you draw it on turn 1. Aside from that, the Faerie Masterminds and the Obira being able to be flashed in at the end of turn when your opponent doesn't do anything that is pressing is really strong. Invasion of Amonkhet, being able to copy additional Tailing's Messengers so you get double triggers on your turn when you attack. Tailing the Kindly Lord is a surprisingly effective card. There are so many times when an opponent plays into this card and doesn't even realize it. I've seen people kill themselves trying to remove it because I have it set to 2, and their only removal in hand is 2 mana removal spells, and they happen to be at exactly 2 life. They lose that 2 life, I draw a card. I don't know why they aren't like taking that into consideration. Maybe it's because Tailing is such an underplayed card. There's not a lot of people playing this style of deck out there. But I'm gonna keep playing it. It's really so much fun. Like this deck play pattern, the synergies across the Faeries, the very effective removal and the counter spells. It's exactly my kind of deck, and I am having an absolute blast with it. I'm going to keep playing this deck and see how far I can get. I would love to try and take this deck all the way up the ladder. And if that happens, you will be the first to know about it. I would love to get this deck to like Masters or something and say, hey, Faeries to Masters, go play it. It's so much fun. And the Mirex against control decks, the Restless Reef against control decks, really great, especially because one, this has a power of 4, knocks out the invasion one shot. Also, it has Death Touch, which makes your opponents pretty scared to block it. And also, it mills when it attacks, so you can potentially mill out an opponent or mill something that you want to copy with Invasion of Amonkhet using the Restless Reef. It's really, really good. And Cavern of Souls making your Faeries uncounterable. Seriously, I cannot say enough good things about this deck because I'm having so much fun playing it. I mean, it may not even be like the most like top shelf uber powerful deck, but I love this deck. It is so much fun to play, and I'm going to keep playing it. All right, that's enough of me gushing about this deck. If you want to try it out for yourself, Decklist is in the description box down below. Take it out for a spin, play it a few times, iterate on it yourself, make some changes if you want to. Have some fun. So that's the deck, and now that you've seen it, go play some games. Take care of yourselves.